Alright, I had to go in and get my other cheap camera because this is the cheap Minolta I bought because all the batteries for my other camcorder are dead. But I think this will do a well enough job. So I found that the headers actually have a 3/16 Allen hole in the end of the bolt. So it looks like, see, you can't, here's the pain I remember now. You can't back that bolt out because it hits the header pipe. You can't back that out. So what you got to do is you got to take out all this, the easy to get to ones first, and then these ones that are really bent you got to take out last. So that one's got to go in first, and because they've got more radical bend. And I think I got the same thing over now. The left side here looks a lot easier. But what I'm going to do is you don't need to see. I'm just going to get in there and just take all the bolts out of all those headers. And I may have to jack the car up then and unbolt the tri-clamps and just take the whole header right out and get that Z-bar linkage out, because I'm not going to use that Z-bar linkage either. I'm going to use a hydraulic linkage. So while we got this apart, I got to figure out where I'm going to put my hydraulic cylinder where the clutch comes through right now, which it's over there on that side. Hopefully I can find a place to fit this master cylinder, because the slave cylinder is just like a little donut that goes on the end of the input shaft of the transmission, between the transmission and the clutch, and that's what your throwout is. So you don't have any bars or linkage, only hydraulic holes to that. So that makes it a whole lot easier, and it makes the linkage work a whole lot easier. Alright, update on the progress. I guess you saw me take the valve covers off, pulled the carburetor off, I've pulled the distributor out, taken the heater hoses loose, which go here and here, and pulled them back. Checked out the wiring to the engine. A lot of it is wiring that I added after for, way in the back you'll see the heat sensor for the water temperature, an extra pressure sensor for oil pressure, voltmeter, so a tachometer, and then I had this little auxiliary harness hip here that just goes into the stereo and turns on the stereo and the electric choke, which basically that just comes on with the ignition. It's just a big relay I put here, auxiliary relay, and it's individually fused with a 20 amp fuse. So that runs the heater and the stereo and the gauges, the extra gauges. I found bolts that will go into the corners of the four corners of the heads, so I got lifting points. And I'm going to go buy one of those equalizers at Harbor Freight. I got the headers all unbolted. It just took a lot of fiddling around. What you had to do is, because these bolts that were behind the curve, you could only back them out a turn or two and they'd hit the pipe, is I had to take all the ones out that I could get out, and then the ones that I couldn't, that hit the pipe, I had to jam a screwdriver down in here, pry it out, and put pressure on it, and then keep backing them out. I put one screw back in here, but now I got to go underneath and undo the headers and undo that that damn Z-bar shift linkage. So we got to go in and figure out how that's going to work. Alright, well, I'm going to jack her up high and put her on good jack stands. When I get under the car, what I'm going to do is also drain, after I get, I'm going to loosen up the bolts for the engine mount and the tailpiece for the transmission. I'm just going to try to get that all done. Drain the oil, and then I got to raise the back up, so I'm going to have to sneak the jack in under here, jack it up so I can get the U-bolts off the back of the drive shaft and drop the drive shaft out. So I still got a lot of work to do today, and then it'll just be yanking the dang thing out. Alright, so now we got her sitting up on really good jack stands, right on the frame member's back, far under here. She's solid as a rock. It's not even sitting on any of the ratchets, you know. It's sitting right on the frame. So now I got to get under there and take a flange out of the header bolts. The flange bolts. These guys, hard to see, and still not real high. And the transmission bolt is right there too. I could take that part of the, I know you probably can't see. Let me get that light. There we go. Sorry about banging around so much. But you see that junction of the headers right there? I might be able to pull them out. There's the flange. The other hard part is, well, there's the soft line, is getting up under here to get that stupid, because this jack stands right in the way. Let's get the headers off first, loose, maybe. This isn't as high as I wish it was. When I did this before, I had 4 jack stands, and I jacked the back way up, and then I jacked the front way upper. But those don't look rusty. Problem is this is the hard one to get off. The other one, as soon as they get the bolts loose, it'll come out. But of course, it's on the far side. Nothing like low cars. There's the rear transmission mount. This is going to be a 4-bolt job here because there's bolts up in there that I got to get to, and then I got to get the one out of the frame here. But as you can see, they're nice and shiny. They're not nasty. Being a convertible, there's a reinforcement plate across here. Maybe I'll come in for the front. Yeah, I'll have to come in from the front to get to the see, if I get the headers out of the way, then I can get the transmission out easy. So I'll start working on these. That's pinched down. That's pinched down pretty tight, though. That may or may not come out. So I'm back under the hood because I got it jacked up sky high, of course, so I had to climb up on a bucket. I forgot to disconnect this clutch linkage, and I asked my wife for a set of hooks. And you see how slick that came out? Oop. And there goes that part of the linkage. Let me see if I can get this spring unhooked. Ouch. That felt so great, yeah. So I don't care about that. This is the clutch linkage now that's disconnected. And it goes over into, I can't see with this thing. But I think you gotta reach up on top, right below the box there. And I think that looks like a 1/2 inch or 9/16. I wonder if I can get a wobble on that from up here. Okay, right. It's a little cramped under here. But I got the header flange bolts out. You can see they're separated. One thing I almost forgot about, the speedo cable went into the side. That was held in with a 7/16 bolt, 1/4 inch. Up here on the bottom of the transmission mount, there's 2 studs sticking down from the mount with, I think they were 11/16 nuts. And then through the hanger, there's a bolt on each side, a big long bolt through the frame, which is a 9/16, so I'm guessing it's a 3/8 bolt. And there's another bolt just like that on the other side. It's hard to, well, it's sticking out a little bit over there. So I'm ready. I didn't want to pull it so the transmission is dropping because the engine will tilt. I still got to get up and start loosening the front engine mount bolts. I think we're going to have this thing jacked up like this to get the engine out, so I think we're going to have to push it out front. I could not get the Z-bar mount bolts out. They're up on top of the frame and somehow impossibly, there's no access to them. With the headers, the damn Z-bar goes through the headers. I have no idea how I could have possibly tighten that up when I put this in 17 years ago, but apparently I did somehow. I do have to pop the drive shaft, so now I got to get the front end down on the ground, or maybe I'll just leave it on there and I'll stick the jack under the pumpkin and get this jacked up, and I'll put some blocks under it. I got some other jack stands, so I can just undo the saddles and drop that. I got to drop the drive shaft, pull it back anyway, so that we can get the engine out. Okay. All right. It's a mess under here. It's incredibly tight. Look at that exhaust system. That exhaust system has been on this car for 17 years, and it's not even rusty. Just a little tiny flash rust here. That's because we don't drive it in the mess. I'm going to take my time to re-sandblast and coat my headers with nice barbecue paint. All right, that's it for now. All right, so I got all the bolts out of the headers, and I'm pretty sure that the left one. I should put those rad bolts back in there. Anyway, got all the header bolts out except for the last one here. And I think, methinks, we can rattle it right up out of here. I think they go in from the top. So I'm pulling the last bolt out of the left side, driver's passenger side. And yep, cool, huh? Now these are not anything fancy. These are Flowtech, made by Holly. I can't get the other side out because of that Z-bend, but the Z-bar equalizer. But when we start to move the engine, we'll push it over and that linkage will drop out. And then we can snake the header out. So that's done. I really need to get the drive shaft out. But look at how great those headers are. They're in perfect shape. I'm just going to paint them up. Look at that. There's not enough rust on them to call them even rusty. They just burned the paint off from the heat. And this car is the most beautiful. You've heard it before in other videos. Beautiful exhaust note. She just sings beautifully with a nice low rumble. Yes. She's a beaut. I'm not sure what kind of gasket I got in here. I think it's a copper one. No? It's a square fiber one. Bugger. Now when you go to pull the engine out, I've got to jack up the back. I got to get the chains on it. Jack up the back a little bit so that I can get in there and pull them bolts out of the tray. You can see the light on it. That's the battery power cable. So I'm going to try to just get that loose and get that out of the way. I was going to leave it on the... See, that wanted to twist the internal bolt. And that would short your starter out. See, nothing's rusty on this car. That could use a little lube on it. Actually, if I got any spray juice. There's silicone. help it maybe. Just a little sticky. It's got a lock washer on it. So just put that right back on. I think I haven't changed the starter on this car. That's the original starter. Battery's dying too. But we're trying to get that bolt out of the engine mount right down there. And the nut I could get my beast on this too. The nut's like 11/16. Where's the 5/8? I'm going to take the beast to it. Now the beast lays right over here. The XR, the wall impact wrench. Okay, that was that. Woohoo! And both of these bolts are loose. This is a little scary. I guess it's just setting on the mounts. So that makes life easy. All right. So that bolt wants to pull right out too. There we go. So what do you think of that? Yeah. So we got both bolts out. We got all the bolts out. This thing's almost ready to go. I got to get the equalizer bar. We could lift this thing out right now practically. You're going to drain the oil. All right. You're running out of battery power.